Marc, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time to have a conversation with me. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Well, hello. Thank you for having me. My name is Marc White, and I'm actually a unaffiliated candidate for the U.S. Senate for North Carolina. I'm not a politician. I'm an engineer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a politician nor a lawyer. So I'm going to tell you the truth. And I'm getting into politics, even though I'm not a politician, because of the radical divide between the two parties. And I'm unaffiliated, which is actually the largest voting bloc in North Carolina. There are more unaffiliated voters than others. Uh, and we can get into the reason behind it, but my tagline is people before party, politics, and prima donnas. We have lots of issues facing us today, facing America, facing North Carolinians, and not facing all Americans, and they're not being addressed because of this toxic tribalism dividing the two major parties. The bipartisan activities, bipartisan bills are a unicorn. They're rare nowadays. They're hard to find, and the situation is just getting worse. And Americans are just standing by. We're not left, we're not far right. We're mostly in the middle in terms of our typology of where people live. And that's where I am. I'm in the middle. I mean, there's both major parties have some great ideas, some have some not so good ideas, but let's get things done that Americans need to have done. The example I always use is 90% of people want background checks before you buy a gun. 90%. Republicans, Democrats, gun owners, everyday people, 90% want background checks. Why is that not being done? And so I'm not advocating creating a third party. I'm not advocating revolution. I'm trying to, without being condescending, kind of step above the fray and say, look, you two guys, let's get together, you two major parties. Only a fool fights in a burning house. And America is burning, and these fools are fighting amongst themselves and not getting things done.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. I'm a centrist as well. So I think that both parties have interesting ideas at some points, and they're right about a few things and then wrong about a lot of other things as well. So what are the topics specifically that you have planned if you get elected in the Senate?
So my approach is going to be to encourage the bipartisan support. But the approach is going to be to unpackage these major deep acts like Build Back Better. It won't pass because it has everything and the kitchen sink, and at a tremendous price. And people look at that and say, no, thank you. And so unpackage each of those items and address them individually. The child care extension just kind of got ignored. The Child Care Credit Act, whatever the name of it is officially, even though there was bipartisan support for it, but it was part of Build Back Better, and it's not going to get done. Things like the more recent, the addressing the gun control, the issues there, rather than a package. We don't even have a package now in the Senate. We have a plan to put together a framework for a strategy, blah 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 blah, which includes lots of things such as the boyfriend loophole and the red flag laws and the raise the age, and all these things are packaged together, and then negotiating a package. Rather than do that, let's approach it as take these things one at a time. Let's raise the age for assault weapons from 18 to 21. Vote, very simple, vote on it, pass it. And when you vote on it, take down names of who's for it and who's against, and find out why they vote against something like that or for it, and figure out what needs to be done to make that one individual item pass. And you can do that in 3 days. There's no waiting for months and research and so on. Let's do the boyfriend loop. Let's do the raise the age, the boyfriend loop, the red flags, each one at a time. So rather than a package, break it apart and figure out what's wrong with each individual item. It's like a line item veto type thing. So let's get things moving. Let's break them apart, individual, one at a time, vote on it. Rather than complaining that, oh gosh, I have spent all my time researching these things and voting on them. That's what you're there for in Congress, is to look at things, vote, get them done.
How do you plan to do that? Because it seems like there's a lot of incentive to have these omnibus bills where you can package in all of your pet projects and get them passed along with other people's pet projects. And it seems like there's a lot of that going on. And it's really mostly just to try to do things to your very large donors that they want or that they benefit. And so, in order to get away from these omnibus bills, how are you going to incentivize Congress to actually do that?
I think it's through conversations with the colleagues, my colleagues, and the Problem Solvers Caucus, and look at these things one at a time. And I guess again, I hate to say condescending, whatever, but point out to these folks, look, rather than how the pundits come explaining, well, bill better won't back because pass won't be pass because X, Y, and Z. Say, look, why can't this one thing? Let's sign it, get it done. There are examples of these one-offs. They raised to the Senate the proposal to name a courthouse in some state, somebody's name, and they can rubber stamp it and sign it and get it done in a day. So why does it take something as simple as change the age from 18 to 21? Do it in a day, and kind of point out to them the simplicity of it all. And and remember, I'm just a guy. I'm not a politician. I have no political debt. I have no sponsors. I have no PACs. I have no party whips. I have no party caucuses. I don't have to vote the party line, regardless of does it make sense for my constituents or not. I'm not going to, and in fact, if you have super PACs and activists pushing a topic, there must be something wrong with the topic that they need to push it so heavily in order to get it done. So um, I don't know if it's possible to change the approach, to change this omnibus packaging, or I'll vote for this, your bill, if you vote for my bill type thing. I might be naive. I don't know. I probably am
Yeah,
naive.
because well, it seems to me like they already know that's an option where they can do that thing, but it seems like instead of taking the road of making it simple and making progress, they want to use it for political gain, and that's the reason they deliberately make it more complicated than it should be. It doesn't seem like they're in it to make progress in those areas unless it can help them along their other political goals. So
Exactly.
how are you going to, because if it was just as easy as saying, oh, look at how simple this could be, we could actually make progress, and
Right.
that was good enough to convince politicians, we'd have a much better country.
Yes. Yes. Well, so it. I don't have a good answer for you. But you mentioned there being, it's based on their political career and their reelection. I'm very much in favor of term limits. I'm going to be there for one term. That's it. Most politicians on day 2 are looking at reelection and how am I doing in the polls, and what am I going to do to make sure I get my party support and Trump's endorsement and so on. How do I not ripple things? And uh, Again, if I don't owe anything to a party or party whips, party caucus, or party platform, I'm just looking at the top priority is what makes the most sense for people, common sense, and the most sense for people, and and I probably won't get reelected because I have no political debt. I don't owe PACs. I don't owe to big donors. I don't owe to party leaders. I'm just the guy who's been on the sidelines saying, why this is so simple. Why can't this be done? Just stand up. So, am I going to shake up the Washington politics? No. I'm going to be tilting at the two windmills of the major parties and how they do things, and me sitting on my donkey by myself with my windmill, my jousting sword, whatever it is.
So what kind of policies do you think would be good or beneficial or common sense, as you put it, for America?
So I actually I went on to this ActiveVote site where you answer 472 questions, and it's everything. It's all policy questions ranging from abortion down to Z zoology, all topics. Some of them are policies that have been around forever and it's still just not being pushed through, and some are fairly recent. In fact, they add new questions each day, and my responses to those questions put me as dead center as you can be. I don't know if I can share a picture.
Yeah,
The
there's a share
results of
screen
that.
at the bottom with has like a little picture with an arrow pointing up.
I have a private chat screen. I do have share screen, and I want to share. my PowerPoint window. Well, let me do that. I'm going to share my entire screen and minimize that and share that. Do you see my picture?
Yep.
Excellent. So this is the results. And what they do is they, based on your answers, how would you completely eliminate, should abortion be completely illegal, ranging to stay out of it? And on a scale of 1 to 5, you answer the questions. I answered 472 questions. And this is me. You is me. And the scale is left versus right, global focus versus a national focus, government focus, and so on. And they have the responses based from the major. This is Biden, Bernie, Kamala. This is the Green Party candidate Howie. This is the Libertarian candidate Joe Jorgensen.
See Yang in there, right?
That's Yang. This is there's Mitt Romney, Trump, Pence. Ted Cruz, John Kasich. But left versus right. All of my positions on policies, on issues, I'm the closest. I actually beat Andrew Young getting closer to dead center in between the left and the right. And also, is it an individual focus? The libertarians are quite keen on an individual personal, Rand Paul, on individual personal policy decisions that best benefit the individual versus the government as a whole, or a focus globally, things like climate change, global impact versus a national focus. And there I am. So my actual position on all 472 issues is available at that website. Let me stop sharing. I should go back to you if I stop sharing.
Yep.
Back to us.
Yep.
Okay, good. Oh yeah, there I am. So I encourage you to look at my website, Marc for U.S. Senate, MARC, marcforusenate.org, and I'm trying to keep it up to date with all my answers to all my active vote questions, and we'll see. But I am centrist. I'm in the middle. I actually have some overlapping with both sides. I like the Republican themes of strong military, strong police, strong criminal, cut down on crime, strong
criminal justice.
Criminal justice. Thank you. Criminal reform. I'm not a politician. I'm not a speechmaker. I get very nervous and start rambling on. So thank you for helping me.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it. Rambling helps me because I don't like talking at all. So the more you talk, the easier it is for me.
But I also like the democratic themes of social safety net. However, I don't believe in on handouts. Right? We can help people that need help, but let's not just have free ride. Let's not do that. So,
so you're a fan of more of the earned income tax credit, where like lower income people, if they earn $5,000, they get paid another $5,000 from the government or something along those lines?
Well, so yes, to help people that are working and have jobs. I don't believe in the universal basic income. I don't think everybody should get a certain amount every month, no matter what. I don't think that would correctly. I'll have to talk to some economists and so on, but I don't think that's appropriate. You shouldn't just get money handout from the government for not doing anything. You should be contributing.
Yeah,
I like healthcare for all. Go ahead.
Well, the earned income tax credit is if you're earning an income, the government will double it up to $5,000 or something along those lines.
Yes. Yeah. So we'd have to look at the numbers. Right? Is doubling it correct? Is it a third or whatever? But yes, if you are working and contributing, and everybody should be working. Everybody should be working. Oh my God, how can there be unemployment? I was born and raised in Vermont, and we have a very strong work ethic. Everybody works. Everybody contributes. So and it's almost an embarrassment to receive supplemental assistance. We would rather work for what we get. On the universal health care, I believe everybody should get health care. Absolutely. But I don't think the government can run it. The government, oh my God, one of the reasons I'm running, I'm on a roll. One of the reasons I'm running is it takes government forever to do anything. Are you going to trust the government to give you pre-clearance for your heart transplant when it takes them 3 years to do simple paperwork for veterans to get on medical coverage for veterans? I like the idea of providing that health care, but the government cannot do it themselves. We got to subcontract or find some other way to make it happen, to make sure everybody gets healthcare. So I'm kind of leaning slightly, as you saw from my picture, slightly left, slightly in that direction. But there are some things we can't do.
So one of my followers had a question for you. He said, "What about people that
Oh,
lose their jobs and can't work due to family and illness and need assistance?"
sure, absolutely. Temporarily, I've been unemployed temporarily and needed assistance temporarily. But if you are if you have to care for family, absolutely, that's considered a job, doing something. Um, Caring for family, I support maternity, paternity leaves. That should be taken care of. Absolutely, but you there you shouldn't be just relying on government and not making the effort. If you are caring for people, absolutely, that you should receive benefits and assistance.
All right, and what about for people that do have long-term disabilities?
So if the long-term disability is preventing you from getting from working, which I guess is the definition of long-term disability, but you should actually receive supplemental assistance. Um, um, I think we need to, though, carefully look at what that really means. I have a spur in my left foot. Is that considered a long-term disability, and therefore I should never work again? No. Let's make sure it's something that is preventing you from contributing to society. There's always work to be done. There's always things, and it can be done in a modified environment, and whatever can be done to accommodate, to help. But just being, you should be making the effort, and we'll support those that are making the effort, I think, on that one.
So to ask about healthcare, you mentioned that you think we should have some kind of a healthcare system. How exact? Because there's many countries that do have a universal healthcare run for the government that seems significantly better than America's.
Yes.
Do you think their systems would be appropriate or comparable of what we should try to implement if just look at other countries?
Yes, we should absolutely look at other countries. Look at Canada. Look at United Kingdom, National Health United Kingdom. I actually lived in London for about a year and a half ish, and I was crossing the road, looked the wrong way, being an American, and got hit by a car, and was taken to the local. They call it the surgery there, the clinic, and patched up. They didn't ask for my credit card on the way in, which is what U.S. hospitals do. There's no insurance card. You just, hey, oh, you got hit by a car, here, let me fix you up. Done. And so when I was living there, I was working there, and they take out a certain percentage of your paycheck to pay for national health. And it was not a significant amount. In Canada, it's a significant percentage, apparently. But let's look at how they do it, how to make it work. And so rather than a single universal health care for all, my suggestion, and again, we need to do some more research, would be fix the things that are broken today. Fix what's wrong with Obamacare. Remove the requirement that you have to have some kind of insurance, but fix what's broken in Obamacare. Fix those things. Fix what's broken in VA care. We need to add more VA hospitals. We need to add more VA staff. We need to, for example, forgive student loans, medical school loans for doctors that serve in VA facilities. Forgive student loans for people who become teachers if they teach in a public school. Forgive the loans for lawyers who serve in low income
Public
pro
defenders?
bono. Yeah, thank you very much. And so staff up on those things. So don't replace these services with a single universal health care administered by the government. Instead, fix what's broken in these things to ensure that we raise the level of health care for everybody.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I think that incentivizing people to do or to be employed in certain public sectors that are very underserviced, forgiving their student debt is definitely a very good way to do that. And I definitely agree that we should look at other countries and try to, if they're doing it right, we should be copying them. I think that's a really great way to try to build a better system overall. Are there any other kinds of policies that you think are inspirational from other countries that we should try to endorse here in America?
I off the top of my head, I can't think of other examples like that.
A few I'm a big fan of are like the Finland education system, since they have one of the best education systems in the world. That's one that I'm a big fan of, and I like the healthcare system in Singapore is also pretty good. Those are two of the ones I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, and I would actually say public transportation in other places. Again, lived in London for a while, and the trains were wonderful on time, and there was ability to get where you needed to go. Geographically, of course, we're different here, but implementing local transit in big cities and supporting that infrastructure, high-speed rail between our major metropolitan locations. I'm in favor of that. We could actually study how they do public transportation in other places and learn from that and see if it applies here in the U.S.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. What other policies do you think that you can implement to help your local constituency?
So, marijuana, the legalization of marijuana. In North Carolina, we're the tobacco growing state, and we're trying to become more high tech, but we still have the people that are growing tobacco, and we need a replacement for that market's being reduced, and we actually still have in the North Carolina Senate they're discussing the medical marijuana, but it's going to end up the farmers will be allowed to grow medical marijuana, but they can't buy it or purchase it. So I am actually personally against recreational marijuana use. However, it makes sense to be able to grow marijuana in North Carolina and regulate it the same way we regulate alcohol, right? You want people driving down the road, they're stoned, just like you don't want them driving down the road drunk. But we should look at legalizing marijuana, recreational marijuana, because it benefits the people of North Carolina. It's good for our economy here. So that's specifically a North Carolina thing. Even though I personally am against it, however, it's the best for my constituents, so I am going to vote that way. Another thing is deepening our ports down in Wilmington. They're having issues with supply chain because on the West Coast the ports can't handle the capacity and so on. Whereas we have ports that are not as busy here on the East Coast, down there in Wilmington, North Carolina. We can certainly use funds to dredge to make them deeper to allow for the larger container ships to come in and all along the East Coast, but I've got my Wilmington, my North Carolina people to look after.
Oh, definitely. I think there's like three major ports that are used for 90 or 80% of the shipping in the U.S. So we definitely could use more ports.
Absolutely. I'm also in favor of bringing. So we've crippled the supply chain because of the chip manufacturing and all the chips. We rely completely on chips being manufactured overseas. We have the ability to do chip manufacturing in the U.S. One of my first jobs right out of college was for a mini computer company. They made their own chips. They outsourced most of the manufacturing overseas, and then they brought it back to the U.S. up in Massachusetts. That type of activity, which is chip manufacturing, let's bring that to North Carolina. We can certainly implement that here. We should bring it into the U.S., not dependent on anybody outside the U.S. for anything, because it could cripple our economy. But that's another example of something. Let's do the high tech.
What do you feel about alternative sources of energy, nuclear, renewable, geothermal?
So I'm very much in favor of alternative uses. I want to, for example, one of my we want to reduce our carbon footprint. We want to reduce the use of the fossil fuels, and so I support wind, nuclear, all the alternative sources. I want to eliminate coal. And that's going to rifle the feathers of Senator Manchin, who earned all of his money from the coal industry, of course. But we have, there's 30,000 people that are actually coal miners in West Virginia today. We should buy them out, and we should not dig for coal anymore. Done. Get it over with. We should encourage conversion to electric vehicles. Any federal agency can only buy electric vehicles going forward. Any contractor who supplies to the government agencies, if they want to remain on the GSA list, they have to have a plan in place to only use electric vehicles, and kind of force the hand, if you will, of these folks to accelerate the adoption of electric vehicles. We need to make sure our infrastructure can support it. We need our charging stations every 300 miles down the interstate because they can't make it very far. However, by saying federal government, we can control you, but the U.S. Post Office only buy electric vehicles henceforth. Done. Sign it, pass it in one day. Done. Instead of packaging it as part of the entire global climate change deal. If you receive government funding, NASA, U.S. Post Office, other agencies with government funding, yes, also do the same thing. Also, if you receive government funding, 100% recycling programs. We need 100% recycling. Also, if you are a federal building, we should put solar panels on your roof. We should support subsidies for businesses that put solar panels on their roofs. For every Walmart, which is a 8,000 square foot flat big box building, we should give them credits for putting solar panels on their roofs and contributing back to the grid. Lots of activity to do in the climate change and the environmental space.
I think that if we shift subsidies over from oil and coal to more renewable sources, that would be definitely a big step in the right direction. But one concern, especially for cars, is that electric vehicles take a long time to recharge, like several hours. It's not just like filling up your gas tank where it takes 5 minutes and you're done and you can just go another 200 miles or whatever. Because electric vehicles have a longer time to recharge, they're not as viable for certain things like trucking industry or military usage or long distance travel. For those, it seems like gas is still going to be preferred and necessary for a while.
Yes, absolutely. Oh yeah. Heavy duty trucks, yeah, absolutely right. We can't make a tanks that are electric. But sedans that we use for everyday use. And if you look at the I have to do the research on the numbers of people that commute less than 300 miles a day, they can commute in an electric car, or we can offer some kind of public transportation, light rail type alternative as well. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Big, heavy industrial things. We can't make airplanes electric yet, though they're, Boeing is working on their reduced carbon footprint planes. But move that way.
So what are other areas you think the government should be spending its money and areas that you think it shouldn't be spending its money?
So we should not be sponsoring Elon Musk to fly into space. I think space exploration is something that should be government controlled. He's the richest guy in the world, and he's asking the government for money for SpaceX in order to explore space. I don't believe that. So you caught me by surprise. I don't have my budget numbers of what to divide where. The basics of infrastructure, which is part of the infrastructure bill that's already gone in place. We need to do that. We need to, I believe in taxing the ultra rich to pay for these programs. All these things we've been talking about that it takes money to do. I actually believe the ultra rich should be paying their share. I believe that big companies taking advantage of the current situation, the oil companies, gas prices, and so on, that's usury. That is, even though it's, you have to look at the legal definition of it or whatever, but the fact that they're making the most profits ever at a time when people are hurting the most, let's get them to contribute back their fair share for that. So shift where we're getting the money from. And in fact, there was a petition, if you will, signed by some of the 250 of the richest people in the world, including the Disney heirs, saying, please tax us more. Please tax us more. And I don't know the number and I don't know the names, but I read that. And if they're saying, yes, they want to be taxed more, then let's take advantage of that. As I mentioned, we need money to the VA. We have to take care of our veterans. There are programs that are just now being discussed and debated, such as the toxic burn pit issue. We should be providing no charge medical care to our veterans for the sacrifices they have made. It's not thank you for your service. It's thank you for your sacrifice. Our veterans, life and body, limbs, and so on, and they should receive 100% 100% medical care. If you provide forgive the student, as I mentioned, forgive student loans for medical professionals or even caregivers. Let's compensate caregivers taking care of our veterans. Our veterans should not be one of the most things that it turns my stomach is there's a near my house. There's a where I get off the exit of I-40. There's a homeless veteran, and those words should never be together. There should no such thing as a homeless veteran. If you have served our country, we should put you in housing, not just a dive shelter, but actually there's the Medicaid 3-star. Medicaid has their own rating for housing, and it needs to meet that criteria. That's going to take money. Gosh, I have to look at all my issues to figure out where to go spending all this money. But sorry.
That's all right. What are your thoughts
enough.
on the inflation right now? What do you think are the best solutions to try to address the current inflation rate?
So, yeah, gosh. So I would like to waive the federal tax on gasoline to start with. That would help. I don't know enough about the economy to have specific thoughts and ideas on it. Apart from that one, that seems to make sense on the inflation. Again, I think we should be penalizing these companies that are the oil companies making record profits at this time. People should not be benefiting from everybody suffering. The pharmaceuticals that made record profits during COVID. No, we should enact the Defense Production Act, and you will produce vaccines, and not quadruple the price of vaccines just because they're needed. Same thing for gasoline. The cost of making a barrel of gasoline has actually been going down because of improved technologies and efficiencies over the years, right? It costs less to do a barrel of oil, but because of the inflation, because of
increased demand,
thank you, but also increase the opportunity, because it's such a basic need. Oil companies are being greedy in overcharging for it. They should be practically a non-profit, right? Which would never happen, but that's the idea, is to if you provide a basic service like an electric company, providing gasoline is like a basic service, like a utility, like an electric company. You shouldn't be making record profits in doing so. Crazy.
So would you be for something like a windfall tax, which Robert Reich supports, which is like when the oil companies start charging to maintain their profit margins over these kinds of pandemics, they get taxed for that?
Yes, I would. Well, so in theory, sounds good. Let me look at the details, but yes, that sounds like something that would make sense. We should find a way to prevent this from going crazy. I support capitalism. I support paying for things as they should be, but it's just too much.
And you mentioned that you think oil industry should be more like a public service kind of a thing. Would you be for something like in Norway? Because Norway, I think, owns 80% of the oil and natural gas production of the country, and they seem to do it at a pretty efficient rate to maintain their economy and to keep it at low prices. Do you think the government can do that effectively?
I would have to look into it and see what they do, how they do it. Do more research. I don't have confidence that our government could pull it off. Again, based on experience and anecdotal evidence, and I guess you could say actual evidence, that just the government's not, just can't operate that well. The logistics are not there. The capability is not there. Technology is not there. They just and so again, where am I going to spend my money? The funding is to beef up those capabilities, government capabilities. Again, referring back to my veterans example, my mother, it took 3 years to get my mother onto spousal support for the veterans because of technology, clerical errors, clerical staff errors. What the heck? And so they are so far behind for veterans in processing medical records that a couple of years ago they said there was a bill introduced to have temporary funding to get them over the hump of medical records because they're so far behind, and the government can't even get that passed to address what's a temporary problem. So I just don't have the faith that they would have that capability. Um, they should put the fenders on, the guardrails on place for private contractors to do those types of things, set up the rules, but the actual operation, the implementation and operationalization of those programs, I don't think our government unfortunately can do that.
Earlier, you were talking about how there are some policies that most Americans want. There's like 70, 80% of Americans agree on certain things. One of them is legalizing cannabis. That's something a large percent of Americans agree upon. Why do
Yes.
you think that those really popular things don't get passed in the Senate?
Um, I think it's still loyalty to party. So the 90% background check it won't get passed because the Republicans are funded by the NRA, receive donations from the NRA, and they're thinking about, what's my political future? I'm not going to vote against, even though most of my people want it, 90% of people want it. I'm not going to vote for it because it would affect my reelection funding, my campaigns. And so therefore out. So you've got to. The thing on the on pro-life and abortions and 67%, 70%, I have to look at the actual number, want abortion to be legal, medically safe. I'm in favor of that. In the case of incest, rape, whatever the circumstance, I think it's a sad note that abortion is casual. I think it's going to be a very important decision to make, right? It shouldn't be just a casual, oh, well, oops, I got pregnant, I'm going to abort it. I don't like that. However, I think if the decision is made and it is a sober decision that an abortion should be done, then it should be medically safe. It should not be drive or fly to a different state or different country to have it done medically, professionally, and no back alley coat hanger abortions. So so what got me started on that whole path? But 70%, 67%, 70%, 71% say yes, absolutely. They're in agreement of these things.
So the question was, why do you think these really popular bills don't get passed?
Why is it not getting passed? You've got very loud people on both ends of the extremes, the fringe element, and some very loud Republicans are making their voices known, and the senators are kind of following. Okay, well, that's what our platform, the Republican platform, is. We don't want any abortions, and they're just loud in the Senate. I don't know. I will have to see what's going on there. Is it because again, most Americans are in the middle, actually slightly left of middle, in the left and the right on these issues, and are they not speaking up enough and telling their elected officials their opinions? The polling says 70%, but when it comes time to vote, Republicans get a certain number of votes and the Democrats get a certain number of votes. And it's there was an op-ed in our local North Carolina paper about the fact that now unaffiliated are larger than voters than Democrats, Republicans, and one of the reasons is people have kind of lost faith in the platforms of the Republicans. We lost faith in the platforms. Those platforms are created by the respective parties, but people have lost faith in them, and they want to. They don't think those two parties represent what they really want to have done. Therefore, they're going to be unaffiliated, so they can kind of pick and choose who is the person that most closely matches what makes sense, what they want to have done. I know that's not a good answer, but that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty good leading into like the two-party system problem of the fact that because we have a two-party system, the first past the post voting system, where your vote is essentially you vote for one of the two candidates, and if you vote for a third party, it just doesn't count. Essentially, it just doesn't get counted. Do you think that we should change that and try to move away from a two-party system and do something more like ranked choice voting?
So, yes, ranked choice, or there's some other methodologies for that type of voting, but yes, let's take a look at those things. There have been studies done to see what the outcome would be of those things. I support it I have to again do some more research to provide better answers. Um, I think if we did the ranked choice voting, for example, in the primaries, and that would help eliminate the fringe element, if you will. I think we'd have to run through some models to see if that would actually happen that way. I think that would help. I would support that. 7
Yeah,
all or nothing vote. Do the ranked choice.
yeah, I think that's one of the biggest contributing factors to why there are some really popular policies that most people in America want, but because they're voting more against the other party, which is bad, and they just want to make sure that that other party doesn't get elected, they're willing to sacrifice on the things that they really value, and in order to just say, well, we'll go with the not bad, the less bad party, essentially.
That's right. The lesser of two evils. You look at the presidential election. Your choices are Hillary and, dear God, anybody but Hillary. And we know who won. So then the next time was, oh my God, is it this person or is it Joe Biden? What's the lesser of those two evils? And so you're constantly comparing personalities, not so much platforms, not so much policy decision. It's ooh. Lesser of two evils. So being unaffiliated, independent. There's no independent party in North Carolina, but being unaffiliated. And so it's what makes sense for people. Never mind the party platform, party agenda, which includes some bad things. Let's figure out. Let's pick and choose the good things and make that happen, and offer that as an alternative. I will be another evil to possibly choose from. The third of the two evils to choose from.
What is your view on, like, do you think that the people who are elected are able to really pass things that they personally value, or are they really constrained by their party and can't really do much of any individual goal seeking?
My sense is they are constrained by party. My sense is you always see reporting about this is how they actually vote. Impeachment example. I mean, they vote based along party lines, and every bill seems to right along party lines. That's why it's such a struggle to get things done, is because you've got the 50-50 in the Senate. So my sense is people they are just going straight along party lines, which is a shame, because there should be things that you should vote with your heart based on what the people want, what makes common sense, regardless of what the party forces you to say. Um, that's my opinion. is do it the right way. Is vote on what that makes most sense for your constituent, for the people before party and politics.
How do you think we can get power away from the party to allow individuals to try and actually support their things? Because I think one of the things that I've seen, that many senators and House representatives have to spend like half of their time calling people to raise money, and they don't really have as much time to actually do their job as much as they are raising for their platform and their party.
I don't know how to address that. Apart from, again, being not part of the party. I'm not part of the games and the fundraising and the campaigning, and I'm just there to look at a problem, find a solution, weigh the different options, and make it happen. And it might have been a Democrat idea to do something, or it might have been a Republican idea to do something. So we shouldn't look at the D or the R from the submitter of the plan or the idea. We should look at how does it work best for everybody. Again, going back to the problem solvers caucus, where they have one of each. And they have the caucus is made up of equal number of each. And they don't talk about the D's and the R's. They talk about, all right, what needs to be done to fix something. And when it comes time to vote, you don't look at the D's or the R's at vote time. You look at the content and the text and say, okay, great, this makes sense. Let's make this happen. What's the methodology to make that change? That's not going to be easy. I think the fact that your politicians today are always looking for re-election and endorsements of people and campaigning, and they don't have the focus. They don't have the priority on getting things done. You are absolutely right. They spend most of their time What's the percentage? I don't know. It seems to be majority of the time out looking at things, out looking at how they can stay in office, and not what they're accomplishing in office, but how can they stay in office. I don't have a plan. I don't have an approach. I'm open to suggestions. How can we get this done?
Yeah, some of the suggestions are like get money out of politics, get rid of lobbying, get rid of
Yes,
the fact that most of the people who like you can just give private constituents as much money as you want, have more public debate where like politicians have to debate each other in public as instead of
absolutely,
advertising on the like TV channels.
absolutely.
Those are some of the things that I'm definitely a big fan of.
Yes, thank you. Yes, absolutely. I support you 100% on that. Great ideas. Yeah, and get the money out. Right now, the seats are for sale. The seats are for sale. And my competition for this spot in North Carolina, the Republican candidate has raised $60 from North Carolinians. $60 according to his federal filing. And all of his other campaign financing is from people who have nothing to do with North Carolina. And it's from the PACs and super PACs and so on and so on and so forth. I have raised more money from North Carolinians, private contributions, yeah, and though which is me and my mother at this point, to my campaign, because I'm trying to do what's best for North Carolinian people. My Democratic opponent was caught sending out solicitation requests to people in California. People in California have different needs and wants and requirements and priorities than people in North Carolina. I don't think you should be able to contribute to candidates outside of your home state. There's a limitation here on private contributions. I don't think there should be business contributions. We should not be selling our seats. Why can't we get gun control passed? Because the NRA paid for those seats. Why can't we get these restrictions on the big oil? Because big oil pays for a lot of seats. Pharmaceuticals. Why is there the insulin cap? $35 for insulin that passed. Democrats all in favor of it. Republicans said no, thank you, because pharma and manufacturers pay for their seats. So absolutely, I'm going to follow the Bernie Sanders model of only accepting private donations, not be beholden to people that pay for seats. So I'm not going to win. I will say outright, I can't be bought. My competitors, for the same seat, they've got sponsors, they've got money, they've got campaign contributions, are going to be obligated to those things. One of my potential former competitors was Governor Pat McCrory, who is a board member and shareholder of Duke Energy. Duke Energy polluted the environment. They dumped coal ash into the water, and they got no punishment, no fines, slap on the hand, significant environmental damage. But Duke Energy, sponsored his campaign. So he, again, we should not. The politics should not be beholden to selling the seats. Whoever pays for the seat gets the seat. It's an unfortunate reality, and there's some movements to kind of eliminate that. And when you go to their website, the first thing you do is ask for a donation. I don't know what to do with that. Thank you for the suggestions. I welcome those suggestions.
Absolutely. Do you think we should be able to do more public referendums, kind of like Brexit in the UK, where we just ask the public, what do you want, and see if we can have direct votes on things?
That's a fantastic idea. Absolutely. Absolutely. So when you get, instead of having a poll saying 90% of Americans want background checks, make it a referendum. Should we do federal universal background checks? And let people vote on it. Yes, fantastic idea. Who came up with that? Was that yours?
I have.
Stop scrolling by. But yes, absolutely. Public referendum, absolutely. Are there wasteful programs that we should not be doing, or are there things that we ought to be doing and we're not? And so take those. Again, the polling numbers say 70% of people are in favor of pro-life. Put it in a referendum. Rather than relying on the fringe senators making those policy decisions, put it out to the public and ask. and see if those polling numbers actually result in, they're not resulting in voting numbers. See if they can result in a referendum.
Yeah, I think that's the only way we could actually get like money out of politics or any of those kinds of policies that damage the Senate and the House is their own control, because they have a vested interest to not do those things. And so we need some kind of an oversight committee to be able to implement policies that would be good for America but bad for the Senate. And I think doing a referendum is a effective way to accomplish that. So the people can be the oversight committee over the Senate and say, do we want money in politics? No, we don't. So you shouldn't be able to do it. And I think that's pretty much the only way to actually get it done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
Awesome. Well, we've been going for about an hour. It was a great conversation. I really appreciate you coming on. Do you want to give people links or references where they can find more about you, more about your work, and support you?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Marc for ussenate.org, and it's MARC, Marc for ussenate.org, all one word. And that's where you have my my position on all of the issues, opportunity to send me messages, get involved. I certainly welcome your support. Again, it's for the U.S. Senate for North Carolina. So North Carolina residents, I certainly would ask for your support. But also, again, I'm not a politician. I'm not a speech maker. I welcome thoughts and ideas. Thank you, Tom, for suggestions on how to fix what's broken out there. I can see there's a broken problem. I've got some ideas how to fix things. I certainly welcome thoughts and input from people, not corporations, from people. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate it. And I will let you go. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.